Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sanjay Srivastava, and one of the privileges of my role is that I get to work across some of the best leaders in the industry across data, technology, and artificial intelligence. And so I'm very excited for the conversation ahead with two of them. In preparing for this conversation, I've just been rereading the World Economic Forum's 2023 report on global risks. This is something where they bring across some 1,200 experts from the global chief risk officer community, among others. And they pull together a very comprehensive report. It's just out this year recently. It's striking when you read the report that 5 of the top 10 global risks in the 2-year time frame, and actually 6 of the top 10 risks are environmental. And within the environment, climate change holds the top position, obviously because of its global scale and impact and its interconnectedness with all of the social, governance, and a myriad set of other issues. In short, there is no risk larger than climate. And that brings us to our panel today, Gurinder and Jason. Thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn to both of you one by one, and I'm going to ask you to quickly introduce yourself. Gurinder, you first.
Thank you, Sanjay. So my name is Gurinder Kaur. I am the Vice President for Operations Technology at AstraZeneca. And my passion around this topic is amazing. Just very quickly, is I had the privilege to grow up in a very small town with beautiful lakes and mountains, and I had a privilege to work in all 4 continents. What I've learned is the world is a beautiful place, but it's also very fragile. So my passion for this topic is specifically around what can I do to make sure that it remains beautiful and clean and healthy for the next generation.
Thank you, Gurinder. Jason, over to you.
Hi, my name is Jason Grant, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Climate Vault. Similar to Gurinder, I've had the opportunity to live, experience many beautiful places. And my particular motivation is just slightly different, is that I have some young children, and I want them to be able to experience those places in the same way that I've been able to. So my 8-year-old daughter, Charlotte, gets mad at me when I'm running the water too long to brush my teeth, and she keeps me really motivated on a daily basis.
It's so exciting to have both of you on this panel. We've been friends. I've known you and worked alongside you for a while now. And I think not only the work that your companies are doing, but the work that you are doing personally is so inspiring. And so thank you for joining. Let me actually now shift gears, and we'll shift to talking about the work you're doing and the company you represent is doing. And so we'll start with AstraZeneca. Gurinder, climate and environment is high on the list for AstraZeneca. What specifically can you talk to us about that you're doing there?
So first of all, I have to say sustainability overall is in our DNA, is in everything that we do in AstraZeneca. And we have a very connected strategic 3-pillar strategy around sustainability that I just want to share. Number 1 is access to healthcare. We want to be able to accelerate the delivery of net zero healthcare across the world. And that's very passionate part of our ambition. We want to be environmental protection and focus on how do we proactively look at that, and then also to basically continue to invest in nature and biodiversity. And third is ethics and transparency. How do we run our processes in our company where we are basically open, safe, and inclusive in terms of that? So if I want to really bring down to what we are doing with data and technology, let me just very quickly go through that. So as you know, we in AstraZeneca, we basically want to run a whole sort we call the smart factory capability, meaning to really look from source to deliver, the ability to run it in a clean, agile, and lean way. So from a data and technology perspective, we are really using that to go against 3 things. Number 1, from a foundation, we are removing paper. So if you think about technology, we are using technology to really move all our paper out of our processes, whether it's electronic batch records, whether it's electronic lab records, so on and so forth. Number 2, we are using basically what I call smart technologies these days, IoT, Internet of Things. So if you think about our assets across operations, we have a lot of assets. What we are doing is connecting technology to that asset, so the assets can give us data that tell us how to really run it efficiently, run it in an effective way so we are not wasting energy, which again then promotes an issue in our environment. And number 3 is digital twins, which is basically another amazing technology that we have. How can we actually simulate all our processes where we are not actually using resources and wasting them, but simulate that to the most optimum outcome and then move them into production. So if you think about the amount of processes we have across manufacturing, delivery, sourcing, and planning, we are basically pushing digital twin in a very, very big way to really get to the lean and optimized way we manage resources. So that's how we are actually doing on digital and tech.
I hadn't heard the word net zero medicine, but that is such an inspiring thought. I might have you spend 30 more seconds on that in a minute.
Yeah.
But the thing that struck me in what you said, Gurinder, is that all of this does require an underpinning of data. And whether it's the digital twin, whether it's the foundation that you need to be able to do that. And then, of course, as you expand this into precision medicine, it's actually the key criteria for success. Talk to us a little bit more about, maybe just give us a 30-second deeper color on net zero medicine. I'd love to hear more about that.
So first of all, our ambition is to be net zero by 2045, the latest, right? So net zero. So as I talk to you, we have 3 pillars on that. One is access to healthcare. So if you think about healthcare and how we actually manufacture our medicines, right from the environment on how we actually get medicines out, we want to really pull all the waste out of that. So that's one way of thinking about it. Then we want to make sure our medicines is accessible as far away as possible into all regions and all markets. So how we get medicines to patients, how we deliver medicines, how we actually even think about the box that the medicines come in with all the paper in it. How do we actually do it in a lean way? How do we make sure people can access our medicines in far remote places in the world? That's what we mean when we think about net zero. We are trying to pull all waste out of the entire process so that medicines can get to patients and have an equitable access all around the world.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Jason, I'm going to turn to you. And obviously, the name of the firm itself is a giveaway in that you're focused on climate. But talk to us a little bit more about what you're doing around climate change.
Yeah, sure, Sanjay. Thanks for that. So Climate Vault is helping corporations and individuals achieve carbon neutrality as soon as possible. So while we very much support everybody's internal efforts, there's always last mile. And so if you're somebody who's charged with achieving carbon neutrality for your organization, you go and you look out at the market, and it's scary right now. It's a scary market. There's a lot of well-intentioned, but ultimately ineffective voluntary carbon market practices that are happening. And organizations get scared because they're afraid that if they do something that is intended to be positive, and then they get written up in a PR article that says actually the thing they did wasn't positive, that's actually, instead of being an advantage for them, a disadvantage. What Climate Vault does is we have a different innovative solution. We have the world's first 2-step process, which results in an immediate reduction and an ultimate removal. What differentiates us is that we actually use the compliance markets, which are government regulated, which allows us to have a verifiable, measurable, and immediate reduction. And then we use, our work uses that compliance markets to ultimately support carbon dioxide removal technologies. At the end of the day, all of the carbon removal and reduction plans in the world have carbon dioxide removal. We think that's a super important part of serving the world's existential problem around climate. And we're working to support that directly.
Jason, that's fantastic. You said a few things there, and I might just want to double click on that. You talked to this concept of voluntary markets and regulated markets, right? Give us a little bit more color. Obviously, we want to be doing this in an auditable, transparent, accurate manner. What are the challenges with voluntary markets? And then how does regulated markets actually solve for that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sanjay. So the voluntary markets have been around for 25 years. They essentially came out of the Kyoto Protocol. A lot of people have jumped in and are participating in them. Some of the challenges, although well-intentioned, is that they're very, very hard to measure. It's the what for problem. So, people say, hey, I have this forest I'm going to cut it down if you don't pay me to not cut it down, which if you can imagine, that is problematic. It's not guaranteed that you're not going to cut that forest down anywhere. And one of the key stakeholders in that transaction that isn't always at the table is the planet. Does the planet care whether those trees are still there or are not there? And really, if those trees are still there and they've always been there, you haven't had a net effect. We leverage a different system, which is the compliance markets. So these are government set up markets. There's 3 now in North America. There's Kaur, Washington, and Reggie. And those markets, what they aim to do is they aim to actually have a reducing cap about how much carbon emissions any particular polluter can put out. We go in as voluntary participants in that market, and we buy up those allowances and prevent polluters from using them, resulting in an immediate reduction of that cap, lowering it than that would naturally have been, and allowing the people that we're working with to claim that immediate reduction in something that's verifiable and measurable and has scale.
So that's amazing, because I think what you really alluded to is, and taking a step back, the reality is that we're not making as much progress on carbon and climate as we would like. The 1.5 degrees centigrade goal is looking extremely difficult. And it's becoming very obvious that we need to start thinking much more, in a much more accelerated fashion about carbon removal, not just carbon reduction. And I think, removal is all about actually extracting carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then encapsulating it and sequestering it. Carbon reduction is actually reducing the greenhouse gases that you put out. Did I get that right? How can you add to that, just so we get the clarity of thinking between the two?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And in reality, everybody the Climate Vault's working with would like to have removal right now. Like one way to think about it is if we just stopped emitting carbon, we still have a problem. There's all that carbon that's up in the atmosphere. It needs to come out. So Climate Vault's two-step solution, which supports carbon dioxide removal, bringing scalability, bringing basically a customer base to them, is helping those organizations get off the ground so that they can have scalable and achievable carbon dioxide removal.
And Jason, carbon dioxide removal can be natural, carbon sinks is an example, reforestation is an example, but it can also be, human-made or artificial is the wrong word, but it could be something we make, which is actually just capturing and putting it back in. From Climate Vault's perspective, are you focused on both or one or the other?
So we really focus on terrestrial, technological, and oceanic, because we find that those are the pathways that have the highest chance of being successful, scalable, and economic. So obviously, we're founded by a world-class economist, Michael Greenstone, and he thinks that it's an environmental problem, it's a markets problem. So we want to be supporting carbon dioxide removal technologies that can actually scale and can actually be achievable without too high of a cost.
Okay, awesome. Well, folks, we're at the halfway point now, and what an amazing start to a discussion. Gurinder, the focus that AstraZeneca have about, as you called it, net zero medicine, is inspiring in that it's bringing medicine out to the most remotest parts of the world in a very equitable and inclusive fashion, and yet doing that in a manner with no real sustainability impact in the long run. And then, Jason, you've introduced to us two concepts, the idea of the compliance markets versus the voluntary markets, and being thoughtful as each of us think about our role and how we really think about offsets. But more importantly, you brought focus to the fact that actually carbon reduction is not potentially enough, that we need to move to carbon removal. And carbon removal requires innovation. It needs a lot more technology investment. And to be able to do that, we need people like yourselves that are actually waving the flag, building a product, putting an economic signal, and then really getting that innovation to happen. And so, as I said, we couldn't have started this conversation on a better foundation. So let's now move into the second gear of this. I want to actually talk a little bit about, as advanced as you are and as forward-thinking as you've been, and all of the steps you've taken, there's learnings in the work you've done that apply to the rest of us. And as we get started on a similar journey, or we look to get insights from you, I'd love to learn from you some of the key lessons that have come through. We talked a little bit about data. We talked a little bit about technology. Gurinder, you alluded to digital twins. And Jason, I'm just imagining that all of this idea requires a platform and a foundation and the data to make it happen. Can I turn to both of you one by one, Gurinder first, and just ask you to comment about what are some of the lessons you've learned? And if I were to get started on the journey you're on, what would I need to be thinking about?
So from us in AstraZeneca, we think about it in three areas. One is mindset. So we basically, it's not putting a technology or put a data here. It's about how do we look internally in our organization and look at all our value streams and really have a mindset where we actually put sustainability and environmental impacts in the center of how work gets done. So how we basically source our materials, how do we plan our manufacturing, how do we deliver our medicines? Everything end to end is not a once to do. We need to basically make sure and embed in the mindset of all our employees and really make it in terms of how work gets done in our company. So that is pretty important to make it stick. Otherwise, it's a one-time off and you're off to the next thing, but this needs to stick. It needs to be part of who we are. The second thing is around, since a lot of it is dependent on technology and data, we really need to have a very progressive, forward-thinking data strategy and a really strong data backbone. So if you think about everything that I talked about, whether it's digital twin, whether it's IoT, whether it's transparency that we need in order to report on, all of that needs data. So we need to really continue to think, what is our data strategy, not of today, but that is going to hold the time for the next 5 to 10 years so that we build it in a way that is flexible, then it can accommodate all the changes that we obviously are going to get through because change is constant. And then how do we actually have a constant and really robust data backbone that connects everything from the bench, as we call it in AstraZeneca, or the labs to the patient, and make sure that connected backbone is really robust and is able to adhere to all changes that we are going to obviously receive in the coming years. So that is the second piece of really smart, forward-thinking data strategy and a really flexible data backbone. The third one that I think we have already looked at is education in our company. So every one of us come to work every day, want to do the best we can. We want to do the right thing. But sometimes we don't know what the right thing is. So having this constant education on environmental impact, what it tells us on, it's actually what we do has an impact on the environment. I know as we continue that education, everybody will do the right thing and collectively we will achieve what we want to achieve as our ambition. So to me, those three things are important. So mindset change, making it stick as how work gets done in our company, a strong and progressive data strategy and connected data backbone, and a continuous education mindset within the company. So those are the three that I've learned that actually has helped us to keep the pace that we have on now.
What amazing learnings, Gurinder. I mean, couldn't have. I think couldn't have traded that for anything else. I mean, I think the reality is that mindset and strategy often is not enough. It's actually the culture and the mindset of every single person that's involved that's actually key to this. And then I think, as you say, education is a large part of it because we can do many different things, and getting diluted across too many things sometimes isn't the right answer. And so getting convergence, getting focus, and I think that education is such an important piece. But it struck me, and I love the way you said it, that you have to build the data infrastructure and the technology backbone for the future. That you can't actually be doing it for today, because the things we're learning today around data and engineering, the things we're yet to learn around AI and modeling and now generative AI, they're going to require an infrastructure and a mindset and an approach and architecture that is very different from what we would have done otherwise. And so I think your call out of being thoughtful about a long-term architecture strategy is actually right on the mark. Thank you for that. I'm going to turn next to you, Jason, and you and I work together on a few of these things as well. And I know that you're deep in engineering an amazing platform. Talk to us a little bit about some of the learnings there and what might we and the rest of our audience take away from that.
Well, thanks for that, Sanjay. Building on what Gurinder said is having sustainability is a key thought whenever you're rolling out a process, updating a process, launching a new product. We think that that's coming online and will just continue to increase. And to support that, we need to make sure that we have accessibility to solutions that are reliable, verifiable, and immediate. And so obviously, we believe Climate Vault is a great solution, but we also need a strong technology platform to make sure that we make that accessible to the people that want to work with us. So as I was listening to Gurinder talk about her processes and whatnot, we need to be thinking about as Climate Vault is how do we make sure that we can participate and support organizations on every step of their sustainability journey, both as they look at their internal emissions, as they look to go to, I love this concept of net zero medicine, as they go to market and they go to their customers, and basically offering opportunities both for them internally to provide a sustainable net zero product, as well as externally when working with their customers. And technology is really at the core of that. There's two main things that we think about, which is measure. How big is it? How big is the carbon footprint? And that's complex. You need a solid system in place that can track the data, can evolve the data as your supply chains evolve, and make sure that you're current in understanding what that footprint really is. And then accessibility to our customers so that they can actually leverage the Climate Vault solution in a way so they can provide carbon neutrality to their end customers in a way that's very reliable.
Wow. So this is fantastic because I want to pick one thing that both of you have said, and I want to actually double click on that just for a few seconds, if you might. Jason, I'm going to start with you first because you talked a little bit about building an amazing solution. You brought three things. You can write it down fast enough. You said it's verifiability, it's and just finish that off for me. The three things are verifiability, transparency, and scale. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, absolutely.
And to do that, you can't do a small implementation of a big idea. You need a platform to be able to drive that. How do you build the scale? How do you do that right? Just give us a couple more sentences of color on that.
Yeah, sure. So, Climate Vault has ambitious goals overall. We want to get to 10 million tons by 2025. That's our corporate goal. And we realized very early that we needed to have a solid technology platform in place that would allow us to interact the way our customers want to interact with us. And so we were very fortunate that we actually worked with Genpact, obviously, who's been a great partner of ours, and basically put our base technology in place in a manner that not only solved today's problems, but allowed us to think into the future, what we expect to happen, but also give us the flexibility for the things we don't know now. Because there's a lot of things we don't know now, and the solution that we'll need 3 years from now is going to be different from the solution we need today. And so just thinking through the optionality that's available and how we design the systems in such a way that they can scale, to have the data, to support emerging AI, to support the data analysis and analytics that we need. We were very fortunate actually that we were able to work with Genpact on that, and they were able to help us think through those things so that we're in a position where as our customers' needs evolve, we can actually support those.
Thank you for that. By the way, today it wasn't about Genpact, so I'm delighted to have you talking about the experience you had and what you're trying to do.
We appreciated the work together, so.
Yeah, well, we love working with leaders across the industry. Thank you for your partnership. Gurinder, I'm going to turn to you on something else. And it's a frequent challenge I hear from many others of your peers. And no solution is perfect, but I'd love to understand, particularly around source 3, what insights or what learnings can you pass on? Because that seems to be the thorniest part of the challenge. And it appears that you guys have done some great work in that area.
I think it's all about strong partnerships and relationships, correct? So I think at the end of the day, we need to understand we can't deliver this on our own. There is this whole ecosystem of partners that some is within our management and control, and some is outside of our management and control. But together, if we have one vision and we have one ambition, we will get there in terms of the climate and sustainability. So to me, it's trying to build that strong partnership externally with all those different partners that we might not have any control of, but also telling our story and telling why this is so important, and really trying to get to understanding and, again, education on why this is important, bringing them along, and really using that sort of strong voice in the marketplace to really pioneer those types of things. So I think it comes down to deep. We are passionate. In AstraZeneca, all of us are passionate about sustainability. So when we talk about it with our partners, all our partners, it becomes a real sort of rally cry, and we're all sort of working towards one vision. So to me, that's what I think. You need to build that relationship. You need to tell your story. You need to be committed. You need to have that voice of passion around really so that everybody could actually, I know we all want to do the right thing. It's just sometimes we don't know how. So creating that platform or creating that area for everybody to come together to really drive it. So I would say that's what I would recommend we do, but that's what we have been doing.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to ask you one more question each, then I'm going to try and summarize what has just been an exceptional conversation so far. Of course, I'm privileged to be working with both of you and many other leaders like you across the industry. Just coming back to you, though, for AstraZeneca and for Climate Vault, just give us a status on where you are on progress towards your own goals. Are you ahead of track? Are you on track? Are you falling behind? Where do you sit?
So in terms of our own goal, which is obviously net zero by 2045 latest, we are on track. So we have made some real good sort of progress in the last couple of years. Just to give some sort of metrics, so we have reduced our 2022, our scope 1 and 2 emission by 59.3% baselines against our 2015 sort of baseline. We have achieved an 18.7% reduction in our water usage and 18.6% in our reduction of waste. And we have obviously through biodiversity and really what I call celebrating the nature, we have planted more than 10.5 million trees across the globe, and we continue to do those kinds of things. So the idea now is to promote and to continue that sort of focus on the 3 areas that I talked about in terms of our sustainability pillars. And we will definitely be there by 2045.
Music to our ears, Gurinder. Good luck with that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Jason, how about you?
Right now we're on track, which we're really excited about. We're excited about how we'll be able to support carbon dioxide removal technologies. Our challenges are now, how do we do more? How do we get more? How do we have more of an impact on the planet? Our use of technology is getting us into areas that we hadn't imagined even 6 months ago, and it's allowing us to scale, and we're excited about that and whatnot. And I would be remiss if I didn't say to Gurinder, please give us a call if you're ever not on track or you want to do even better. We can help you.
And Jason, you threw out a very impressive number. I just couldn't write it down fast enough. But why did you pick that number? Like, what is that relevance? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. How did we pick that number? So we wanted to pick something that was ambitious, right? It needed to be ambitious because we need to aim organization, like we need to have an impact. We needed something we could rally around. There was a nice round number, 10 million, in the 5-year horizon. Like, if we can do that and we're on track to do that, that's a major impact. And if we do 10 million tons of eventual carbon dioxide removal, that's something you're not shaking a stick at. That's real. That's something that we can verify, and we'll be very proud of that. And as I said, we're on track now. We're going to do more.
Good luck and Godspeed with that. We need it really to happen quickly. I'm going to try and bring this together. It's such an amazing discussion. It's difficult to capture in a minute or two. I'm walking away with 3 incredible insights. I think mindset, I think there's a discussion on culture. There's a discussion on education. There's a discussion on bringing everyone together. It feels like no matter where we are, and what we do and what role we play, the opportunity for us is to personally lean in, to help with the culture, to get education going, and to really start converging on something we're going to do today that is actionable. And it's clear in speaking with you, that's been part of your success. And it's clear as we work across other peers of mine and yours that that's the case. I think the second big thing I'm taking away is the critical imperative of getting a data and a technology backbone in place. The data is fundamental to this, that if we didn't have it, that we wouldn't be able to be set up for the machine learning around the forecasting, the waste removal around some of the opportunities that we see, the understanding of the footprint that we're creating today by actually measuring and really being able to track progress around that, and then accounting for what's coming down the road. And then technology backbone, I mean, either it's the digital twins, it's the scale that you're talking about, Jason, it's the ability to get this out to the farthest reaches of Earth and be able to deliver that. You need to really think through technology. And getting data and technology and the architecture around that is going to be fundamental and key. And it's clear, as crystal clear as I listen to you, that that's a key takeaway. I thought my third takeaway was around ecosystems and partnership. I thought it was brilliant the way you actually framed it, that it's important that we don't do this by ourselves. Jason, that we're thinking about things like voluntary markets versus compliance markets and understanding the difference between the two and making the choices that are appropriate for what we're looking to do. Or they were thinking about reduction versus removal and the trade-offs and how we set our Earth up for success in the long range by thinking through the partnerships, the ecosystem, the innovation, the incubation that needs to happen. And Gurinder, in your case, just the idea of, beyond source 3, just the idea of net zero medicine and your inspiring goal of getting medicine out to the remotest parts of the earth and doing that in a sustainable fashion. And I don't think we can do that without being reflective of the environment we live in, the partnerships that we have and the ecosystem around us. And so I'm walking away with those 3 amazing insights. Obviously there's more to come on this, and I look forward to the discussion ahead of us. But for now, I just want to say thank you for being part of this, and great luck and Godspeed with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.